Okay, well, this is really fun because I love starting off with the perceived assumptions that everything's just going to go so smooth. And it first starts with remembering, what am I doing here? And so I met Marissa through an organization, and we became fast friends. She saw something in me that I knew about myself, but had not yet really allowed myself to go there. And so Marissa had me, she and I were talking about some collaborations. And during that time, I started to rethink and realize, oh my God, yeah, I'm on my right path. And so that starts the whole purpose for our conversation. So purposeful praise first starts with personal praise. I just want that to sit with you for a second. Personal praise can only happen if you are allowing purposeful interactions with other people. And that's when behaviors change. So we're going to first start with a little meditation. And yes, I can go on and on about who I am. However, you'll receive who I am and get to know who I am through the process. So I just want you to get comfortable for a second. I do know that it's your lunch hour or around that time. So if you'll just stop for like maybe 60 seconds and just get comfortable in your chair, and just know that this is an opportunity to play, and play is very important. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think about, how do you talk to yourself? And the words that you say internally, are they the same words that you speak externally? How do you move through your day? What are the expectations that you have? What are the hopes that you have? And as you sit here and you recognize the thoughts that are coming up, I now want you to see what feelings are coming up. How do you feel internally about the words that you are saying passing through your brain, passing between your ears? Where are they coming from? Are the words coming from you? Are they coming from others? Are they limiting beliefs? Are they powerful beliefs? Are they propelling you forward, or are they squashing you down? And as you sit here, I don't want you to think that you're reliving anything, that if something is coming up for you, because that is the antithesis of this experiment. And I use experiment intentionally. We are scientists. And as a scientist, we get to wear our hat all the time, unless we choose to take it off. And so right now, I want to ensure that you have on your scientist hat. And I want to ensure that you are reminding yourself that you're safe regardless of what's coming up for you. And just sit here for a moment. Listen to the voices. Feel the feelings. Are they in your toes? Is it in your chest? Is it in your neck? Where are the feelings coming from? And in just a second, you're going to take a really big, deep breath in and shake it out. And now you can open up your eyes. And I want you just to jot down what came up for you. Just jot down for a second. How did it feel being asked to go inward? How did it feel knowing that you have the opportunity to either hold on to the thoughts or to release them, just like the leaves in the fall? So I want to start there. And now I am so excited because I had the fun time of creating a PowerPoint, not a PowerPoint. I played, it was super fun. I played on, hold on one second. Let me just fix this before I share my screen. I played on Canva. And the reason I wanted to start off with what's really happening within you is because I had a lot of limiting beliefs around, could I do this on my own? Do I need to call my assistant? And I decided, no, I'm not going to call her. I'm going to do it myself. And so I want to start. Oops, hold on one second. Let me just, okay. Oh, I love technology. It's the fun of learning and also the beauty of exploration, which is all about purposeful praise. If we're hard on ourselves when we're trying to do something, what's going to happen? Is it easy or is it not? And so, hold on one second. I'm going to put it back into the presentation mode. Let's do this. And so the reason I intentionally bring up, is it easy or is it hard? Because I could go down a rabbit hole right now. I could allow negative thoughts coming into my head, being like, oh my God, you're not ready. Oh my God, how is this going to act in your behavior? Or I can say, you know what? I'm really proud of myself for coming up. I'm really proud of myself for playing and creating this PowerPoint on my own, realizing how late I was staying up doing it because I was having so much fun last night creating, deciding that it was time to go to bed around 1:30 in the morning, and also honoring the fact that it doesn't have to be perfect. Because as a society, we are conditioned systemically, systematically, and socially to be perfect. And if we're perfect, we can never have purposeful praise. If we're perfect, we're never going to be able to have the internal conversations with ourselves in order to create change behaviors externally. This is one of my favorite quotes. I came up with this my first year teaching. So I am a retired classroom educator, now educator for and in the world. A parent recently brought to my attention that I have always been an educator in the world, specifically because I took my class on anywhere from 60 to 100 field trips a year. And I was like, oh, you're right. You're so right. I am the retired classroom educator because I want to make sure that my impact stretches across the globe. Kindness is an intentional act. It is never, ever, ever random. And neither is it unintentional. When you are kind, you're then mirroring back to the world what you want and how you want to be treated. And the kindness flows from self-awareness and empathy of others. And we throw around all this language all the time. And it's very easy for me to sit here and say, you know, oh, just go be an empathetic person, or, oh, just go be kind. But what does that really mean to you? So right now, again, on your paper, I want you to have an opportunity just to jot down, what does kindness mean to you? What is...
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Thank you. And that was being kind to me right now, you guys. That was kindness in action towards myself. That is a beautiful example of, what do you do in the moment? Do you freak out? No. Or yes. Do I react or do I respond? And what's going to happen inside my body? Right now, my body is so even keeled because I asked for what I needed. And that's showing me kindness. So for a moment, I just want you to write down for yourself, what is your concept of kindness? And what is your concept of self-awareness? And most importantly, what is your concept of empathy? Because empathy of others is also the reflection of empathy towards yourself and about yourself. So as you look here for a moment, the reason this quote is so important is because when I was in the classroom, and I just moved to New York in 2006, after starting my teaching career in Atlanta Public for 2 years, I had a mission, I had a purpose, and I had to remember that not everyone's purpose is going to be aligned with my purpose, and not everyone's actions are going to be aligned with my actions. And I have to check in with myself. Can I still be kind and show up as myself? Can I still do me? the random acts of kindness, teaching the way that I want to teach, model the way that I want to model, implement the way that I want to implement, while also consciously taking into consideration, how much can others handle? How much can others handle? So now, here's the best thing. Everything starts and stops with us, which really means it starts and stops with you. I say us as a collective because we are a collective. However, what is my choice within that collective? And I took this picture when I was in Madison. I went to college there. And I recently was back over the summer attending a workshop. And I watched, and it had so much anxiety going into the workshop because I went to Madison fully knowing that since 5 years old, I was going to be the best dressed kindergarten teacher in the world, and I was going to get into their education program, forgetting, and also ignoring the fact that I had extreme test anxiety, and also that I thought differently and I worked differently and I learned differently, and all of it was missed. And so when I went back in July, I was having a moment and I was like, I just want to go sit outside at a cafe. And it was packed with people. And then the people like all around, that's just one of like 15 tables outside on the street. And I am sitting there under an umbrella watching, and all of a sudden a swarm of birds came. And it was the most magical moment in time because it reminded me that we all get to make choices, right? The people didn't think about picking up their plate and taking it inside the cafe. They left it there. And then the birds got to eat. And I got to watch and take a picture and relish the moment in time in nature, outside, while working. And I praise myself for taking a moment to look up from my computer, which then allows me the opportunity to praise other people. Because if I'm not praising myself, the energy that I'm putting into external praise is not authentic. And it's really important that we remember that piece. How you speak internally is how you're going to act in the world and how you're going to be portrayed in the world. And it's really important not to worry about what other people are saying about you and caring about what other people are saying about you. So I want to drive that piece home. Other people's perception of you does not matter. It's none of your business. It's none of your business. And I personally am still working that belief that what other people think about me is none of my business. I don't really care. You're either going to like me or you don't like me. You either like margaritas or you like iced coffee. That's totally cool. Completely different drinks, right? And so it's important that you allow yourself to think about, how am I talking to myself? Because how I talk to other people impacts. And I want to make an impact. The whole purpose for all of us being on this earth is to make an impact. What is your impact going to be? How are we going to make purposeful change with kindness at the forefront, with compassion at the forefront, with curiosity at the forefront? So facts. I must take ownership of me for me. Before I can praise others, I must first observe how I praise me. So for a second, once again, I want you to jot down the words that you speak internally, that you have spoken in the past, and currently speak to yourself. And then what I actually want you to do is I want you to draw a line down the middle and write how you're speaking to yourself, past and current, and how you're speaking in the world, past and current, because both of them matter. If you're being kind to the world and excruciatingly disgusting internally, we have to look at why, and we have to look at what is propelling you to do so. So just take 30 seconds to jot down. And it's really important that you remember that none of this is judgment, that we're scientists, and that you have your science hat on. Because as scientists, we can stay in a state of curiosity. When our science hat is off, we are in judgment. So put on your science hat for yourself, because right now you're playing and you're exploring. So now I want to go into thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions. The reason I keep asking you to think about how are you speaking internally is because your thoughts create the feeling, and the feelings create the beliefs of how you're going to act. Beautiful example. This morning, I had planned to work out. I was so excited. I got a text message that I was not expecting. I had to catch my thoughts in order to detach from the feelings. Because if I did not catch my thoughts and detach from the feelings, I would not have been able to show up for you guys the way I am right now. Because the belief that I'm not so great and that I messed up were going to be in my brain, and my action was going to come on here and try and prove myself the entire time. And I have nothing to prove. I have everything to share. And that is a core belief of mine, that I have everything to share. So I want to walk you back through that process again. How you're thinking creates a feeling. Now, you already might be feeling something in your body, so your brain is going to attach to thoughts really, really, really fast, like super fast. And nothing more fun than teaching this to 5- and 6-year-olds, to watch them, how fast they can catch their thoughts before they allow the feelings to come. Because I want you to think about this for 1 second. You know your actual age. Are you always in that current state of your actual age? Or do you ever watch yourself go backwards into maybe your 13-year-old self, or your 5-year-old self, or even your 2-year-old self, if you remember those moments? So for me, I will forever be a kindergarten teacher, because at the core, our 5-year-old self will always come out unless we love our 5-year-old self and we speak internally to our 5-year-old self and our 13-year-old self and our current age self the way we want the world to speak to us. And that is where the actionable change happens. That is where behaviors change. That is where communities change. That is where we as a collective change. So now, I came up with this when I was exploring some work I was doing about alignment. And I really thought about it. And I realized I'm abandoning myself so much. Yep, I admit it. I self-abandon. I'm a retired people pleaser, yet then I am a present people pleaser. And then I go back into remission of people pleasing. And then I step back into people pleasing. And what I realize is every time I hold on to my narratives about what other people think about me, or that I'm not good enough, or that I'm low level, I am unwittingly abandoning what can and will happen in the future for me, and with all of you. So when I sat down and I really thought about it, I made a list of what am I not doing? What narratives am I still holding on to? How am I receiving praise? Because again, purposeful praise cannot be received unless you are praising yourself and seeing what you can do. Seeing and feeling what you can do. Creating actionable beliefs around what you do. And that is where the magic happens. In order to do so, you have the power of pause. It's not pausing to stop. It is literally stopping to pause. We stop at a stop sign. We look right and left. We do it again to make sure no one's coming so that we can drive forward. We're pausing. There's an intentional pause right there. We're having to stop to pause. The lights at the traffic stop, same thing. Now let's take it inward to you. Are you actually stopping to pause? Are you actually allowing yourself that moment of time where you are allowing your thoughts to encompass your entire body, to take over your entire body. Because again, we are so focused on mental health, you guys, but the reality is it's holistic brain health. It's holistic brain health. However your brain is functioning is how your stomach is functioning, is how your heart is functioning. It's actually how your feet are functioning. And it's all one big party within your body. So when you stop to pause to check in with yourself, you're checking in with your heart, you're checking in with your stomach. Oh, wait a second, I'm hungry right now. Oh, no wonder I'm getting so irritable. Wait, I'm hungry and I'm also really nervous because my boss said they want to have a conversation with me, but I have stuff going on at home. I have personal life stuff going on at home that I just don't have the capacity to do all of this. And that gap in time is giving yourself the moments to go back and love internally. Let me say that again. It's giving you the time to love internally. Because no one is ever going to make you happy unless you make yourself happy. No one is ever, ever, ever going to do the work for you. I've tried to abdicate my power to so many people, and it's comical how it returns. I want you to think for a moment, how many times have you abdicated your power so that you can receive praise? Do something just to get praised. And then I want you to think for a moment, was it purposeful praise? Did it really help you? Or did you continue doing the same behaviors? And when we think about purposeful praise for behavior change, I will always go back to it starts and stops with us. How I treat myself is how I'm treating the world. And if I expect the world to be proving all the time because I'm having to prove all the time, it's all of these subconscious thoughts that are floating through our heads. And are our bosses talking about this? Or our parents talking about this knowledge of the subconscious bringing up all of these thoughts and feelings and emotions and turning it into this big tornado inside of us? No. But what our world is doing is labeling and limiting us. Pausing allows our brain to calm down, feel our feet on the ground, and respond instead of react. And what to do in real time, you take a break. What that break looks like is going to be independent of you. Me taking a break is shaking my body out. Me taking a break is dancing for a minute. Me teaching others to take breaks, the amount of people in my life now that bang on pillows, and especially adults that bang on pillows, and if they have children and the children come in, they're like, oh my God, mommy, daddy, are you mad again? And they're like it's in their brain. The child is now conditioned to, oh, somebody's got extra energy in their body. Oh, they're taking a break and they're going to release it. And half the time the parents are just saying, no, I'm just fluffing the couch. So what you do, you guys, you are modeling what you want back. So this is a really important piece to check in with yourselves. And now, one of my favorite images. All of the colors and all of the numbers and all of the misconceptions about our brain are right here. We think we know so much and we know so little. I was diagnosed with ADHD 3 weeks before I left the classroom in 2018. I began my teaching career in 2004. I began my life in 1978. I knew all along that there was something different about me, and the labels and the limits come in. And when I saw this image, I started cracking up because I saw geometry, I saw trigonometry, I saw chemistry, I saw all the spaces that used to freak me out. And then I was like, oh, let me see if I can like crack those codes. And my favorite was all of the paint outside the brain. So for you, what is this image bringing up? Because again, you control the thoughts in your head and you control your breathing. There's no other control in the world. I'm going to be very transparent with that. And I will say it again. The only two controls you have in the world are the thoughts going in your brain and what you allow to do with those thoughts and your breathing. Control is an illusion. It's like the mirage we see. It's the elusive puddle that I love seeing. Is it raining or is it hot outside? What is it? Take care of you in order to take care of others. And detaching from emotions changes our behaviors in action, which allows your integrity to be magical. This is an important picture. It goes back to holistic brain health. When I left the classroom, it was very intentional that I was seeing, and I had almost 2 decades of data collection showing how when we are not connected with our bodies and we lead with our brain, we are not making the choices that are really holistically helping us. We don't eat well, we don't think well, we don't act well, and the behaviors come out. And the struggle when the behaviors come out, or when the words come out, or when the actions are occurring, you can't take them back. And so we have to make sure that whatever we're doing is intentional. Our heart beats intentionally. Everyone has a brain and everyone has a heart, but the only way we can all as a collective humanity thrive is coming back home to the fact that we all have a heart. And the only way you can stay alive is if your heart is beating, period. And if your heart's not beating, so you have the power to keep yourself healthy. Keep yourself healthy. I had jaw surgery, so that was a tongue twister. So I found this image and I was like, it seems very silly. And then I was like, no, actually it's not. Because how often are we putting off our needs in order to do for other people? So I'm going to stop sharing and ask a few more questions that are really important for you personally to think about. What are your priorities for you? How do you praise yourself? How do you receive praise? How do people receive the praise you give? What changes do you see within yourself when you give praise? And what changes do you see and experience and observe when you give praise versus when you praise yourself? And I just want you to marinate on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dana. That was wonderful. There's a lot going through my brain that is marinating for me. I know we have some time for questions. I know it might take a little bit of time for us to sort of just let everything marinate and see what's coming up. Please, everyone, feel free to put your questions, comments, reactions in the chat, anything that resonated or that you want to expand on more. And you can also take yourself off mute. While everyone sort of thinks about their respective questions, I thought I might ask something that came up for me while you spoke, and then I'll open it up to the rest. One of the components of kindness that you spoke to, Dana, has to do with taking ownership and kind of accountability or responsibility, and taking ownership of how you present yourself in the world. But I know also that for me, sometimes taking that ownership quickly can turn to self-blame or self-criticism. And so I was wondering if you could just kind of unpack that a bit. Like, how do you take ownership for how, for yourself in the world without stepping into that territory of kind of putting undue blame or responsibility, in a kind of negative way?
I love that question. At first, again, first of all, a brilliant question, and thank you for asking. It honestly goes back to the power of stopping to pause. Because when you stop to pause, you can check in with your thoughts. Why am I blaming myself? Is this really about me? Or is it a narrative that was told to me for so many years that, I suck, or, I'm never on time, or, I always make grammatical mistakes. Like, what is really true? What is really true can only come down to you. And so when we're in the moment of, am I blaming myself for something that I actually could have done something differently about? Or am I blaming myself because I don't want to look bad? I don't want to have misconceptions about me. I don't want people to think poorly of me. I don't want to fall down the ladder of hierarchy of, I'm so great. And that comes back to core beliefs about yourself. And so whenever those moments come up, I highly encourage, regardless of the age, because like I said, I work with loads of kids. I work with parents that still have kids in utero, working with the thoughts that they're having, because they transfer to the kids. The science behind the transference of thoughts within the body is fascinating. And so we have to look at, when I'm working with a 3-year-old or when I'm working with a 65-year-old, like, where are your thoughts coming from? And how can you detach from those thoughts? What do you need to do to detach from those thoughts? And to be fully transparent, there's not a one size fits all. I have been just baffled by the concept of what people are putting in and around neurodiversity. I have been a pioneer in neurodiversity. I didn't even know it was a thing before all of this jargon came about. And that also speaks to Marissa's ability to see something in me that other people were like, we know you're amazing. We just aren't being able to zoom in on, like, exactly. And that was what it is. It's, I see how this world is, and I see how we all perceive what's going on. And we all are neurodiverse. No one has the same brain. I am not discounting any diagnoses because I have diagnoses. I don't live by those diagnoses. I choose to let them be my superpowers. Others look at them as deficiencies. I can blame myself, or I can elevate myself. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's why it's about knowing and investigating your self-awareness about yourself and how are you really feeling.
Thank you. Others, what questions, thoughts, reactions are coming to mind?
Oh, Sabrina, I love your comment. Like, love, like, literally love. Because I joke around a lot that I'm 14 half the time, and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, you're not. And of course, like, because you really love margaritas, so like, there's no way you could be 14. Do you want to share more? Do you feel comfortable sharing more?
Yeah, sure. The 14.
I didn't even.
Yeah, that was me. No, all good. Well, let me pause. Anyone else want to jump in?
First of all, I do want to share this. It is so vulnerable of you guys to come on and just be here, because the idea of coming into a workspace and not, and I call this a workspace. I want to be very clear, because you're working on yourself. And my sister and I argue constantly about this. She's a PA, has done a lot of work, self-work, self-practice, and I'm an educator, and we both are very much into holistic brain health philosophies. And at the core, it's an investment, and you're investing in yourself. So the idea that you're investing in yourself right now is huge. And if you don't want to ask any questions or your questions come up later, I think they'll have my information and they can reach out and share, and reach out to me personally if you have more. It's really important that you first start with praising yourself for simply showing up, because that way you can then praise someone else for simply showing up. It is one of the hardest tasks, and we do not give it enough credit. When you show up to something, it really speaks volumes about who you are and what your purpose is and where you're investing your time.
I see Aiden put a question in the chat, which I'm happy to read. Aiden, I'm going to pause just for a second in case you do want to come off mute to read it, but I'm also happy to read it and we can respond.
Yeah, sure. I can read it. Hi, I'm Aiden. So I just was asking, like, when I've been a manager, I sometimes run into these situations where, like, my need for praise is just a lot different than the people that I'm managing. And so I'll clue into that and understand that they'd like more praise, but I don't want to accidentally, like, overpraise, and that sounds wrong, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I can to empower them and to give them tools and resources and direction, but also so that they're, like, feeling confident and good about their work with or without my praise, so that they're just kind of, I feel like we're able to have those moments of celebration, but they're more autonomous and growing in their work on their own. And so I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts or suggestions about that dynamic that can come up.
Well, I first want to start with, please don't shit on yourself. And that's why I did the T for timeout. It's really important to check in with the whole scope and sequence of praising. I actually praise people for making mistakes more so than I praise them for doing it right or getting it right. And the reason for that piece is because they're being vulnerable. The concept of being vulnerable and courageous to make a mistake and to just try is so important in the whole process. And so when we think about the way that our society is constantly giving out medals and constantly giving out trophies and constantly praise, here's your sticker, it's got to come inward. So it first starts with modeling to your team the thoughts that you're thinking in your head when you get something right, when you're on the right track. And you can say it out loud. You can be like, you guys, I am so proud of myself. I got through this task and I thought it was going to take me 10 hours and it took me 45 minutes. Who cares what they say? You now no longer need to receive praise or give praise, because the person that is sharing that information, you can give them a high five. You can say that's awesome. You don't need to keep going on and on and on about giving extra, because that is where the disconnect is. That is what our society has, and systematically and systemically, is constantly telling us. Look externally, look externally, look externally. Are you watching me? Are you seeing me? Do you love me? That's a 3-year-old. That's a 4-year-old. An adult working in an environment must know how to praise themselves, because the amount of negativity, the amount of gaslighting, the amount of bullying, the amount of any kind of behavior that is the antithesis of elevating has occurred in my life. I'm a disruptor. It scares people. I don't really care. I know that we can make the world a better place, and I won't stop. What I didn't know along the way, though, is that I needed to let other people know what I was doing, because if I didn't let my principal know, or I didn't let somebody know that I had done X, i.e. raised $100,000 for social emotional learning, they had no idea where the money was coming from. They just knew we had resources. So what I learned was I had to get comfortable with praising myself. I had to get comfortable with knowing that I'm a go-getter, knowing that when I believe in a concept or I believe in a mission, that I'm relentless and I won't give up on it. So I think, truthfully, it really comes down to checking in with your audience and asking them, what is your need for praise? with your science hat on. Say, let's all put our science hat on. Let's get curious about our individual need for praise. Do we need praise or do we want praise? Because they're two concepts that are so easily intertwined and two totally separate buckets. How does that sound? How did that help?
That is super helpful. Like all of that is really, really helpful. And especially the part about praise with mistakes and with vulnerable moments, like that's huge. So yeah, thank you.
Pleasure. It's a great question. Who else? Come on down. I don't have any prizes for you.
Larissa loves the term vulnerageous.
A really funny moment in time. So when I was in Madison, I was there for a conference, and I don't know why I didn't apply to speak. I don't know why I didn't apply to speak. I think my low level thoughts about myself and, not getting into the education program there, completely aside from the fact of everything that I've accomplished in the world, there's still that healing that needed to happen around not getting in there because of a test. And so I walk into the education school for the first workshop, and they're talking about failure, which is my favorite topic in the world, because there's no failing unless you try. You only fail if you don't try, period. So, and I have a lot of people that argue with me, and I love the conversation around it. And so they're going on, and the speaker says something, and I was like, and I told her my concept of failure, and she's like, we're not going to be getting to definitions of failure for another hour and 20 minutes. And I was like, oh, well, I guess that was a little vulnerageous of me. And she was like, it was very vulnerageous of you. And funny enough, the people that we're getting this data from use that word too. And I was like, oh, she's like, how many times do you come up with like conglomerates of words? And I was like, quite often. It started from my best friend's son, who came up with nervited. And I've been stealing it ever since. And what I love is that he is sorry, you guys, let's try that one more time. He is neurodiverse. And what I loved about the fact that when we allow ourselves to be creative, we allow anything to happen. And so coming up with fun words, making it fun, making it playful, allows us to take the stress off of what's really happening. And so I did find it really interesting that when I was there and they're presenting, it hit me. I was like, I could be doing this. I could be leading. And I didn't believe enough in myself, which goes solely back to the whole focus of today's topic. What is your internal dialogue? What are you believing about yourself? What have people said to you? Where are you not moving forward? And how can you catch those thoughts? Like literally with like a baseball glove in your hand, and you throw them into the outfield. Anything else, you guys? No pressure, just curious.
Well, Dana, unless there's anything else on your mind, we can call it an power hour and wrap up. I know I'm so appreciative of your time, and you gave me a lot to think about. And again, echoing what you said, thank you everyone else for being here. This was really wonderful.
I appreciate you guys showing up. Again, that's the first step. And whatever you got out of today and whatever you think you're supposed to get out of today, let it go and just be. Totally just be. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoons, and we'll see you at the next power hour.